welcome back to My Mentor Jane, where you can develop the mindsets, behaviors, and habits that lead to a good life. Today's episode is all about creating the future. Not just any future, but one you are excited about, when you are using your best talents in ways that really interest you. Most of all, in a good life, your relationships are life-giving and not soul-sucking. I'm living that good life today, and I have been for many years. There's lots of aspects to a good life. The ones I tend to focus the most on are my work, my relationships with other people, my spirituality or my spiritual life, and my health. Now, I often get asked, how on earth can you have a good life in all of those areas at the same time? If you stay tuned to the final word at the end of this video, I'll share my answer. I also have developed 3 important habits that have made all the difference, and I'm going to share those with you now. The first habit I've learned is to ask myself, what is my greatest hope and what is my deepest fear? Now, those may be tough questions. People who really want a good life, though, are not afraid of questions that force them to think. This is your life we're talking about. What do you want to avoid more? Being honest with yourself or living an unfulfilled life? I'll take the tough questions every time. Now, let me use an example that's alive for me now, and I'll show you how I do this. In fact, I wrote this exactly in my journal this morning after a disappointing experience. I've had breast cancer, and my husband had a major heart attack a few years ago, so health is increasingly important and a priority. So I asked myself those 2 questions. What is my greatest hope for my health? Well, I hope to eat healthy. I want to lose 20 pounds, although 30 would be better. I want to look good in clothes, and I want to look younger. I want to live to a ripe old age and enjoy a vibrant life. Let's call that long life. On the other hand, what are my worst fears for my health? Well, I'm afraid I'll keep gaining weight, which has been what I've been doing a lot. I don't want to look like an old pudgy lady. And to be really honest, I'm afraid I won't be able to eat all the food I love, like mac and cheese, baked potatoes with sour cream, and coconut chocolate frosted donuts. No more donuts. That's one of my great fears. And you know, when I pause and think even deeper, I admit I don't want to give up eating what I want, when I want it. I'm afraid of giving up control. The insights from this habit lead to huge progress towards creating a good life. Why? Because I've got clarity about what's important to me. It isn't going to look the same for everyone, and that doesn't matter. It's the life I was created for. Sure, I want to look good and be healthy. I've also discovered that eating food I enjoy is important to me. And so is having control over my diet. So now I can add those to my greatest hope list. Enjoyable food. I'll just say good food. And choice. Now we could branch off in lots of different directions here, but I'll save that for another video. In the meantime, I want you to know about Barb Raveling. She's an expert in the area of dieting and healthy eating. Barb has written some terrific books and has a great podcast. I'll put a link to her website in the comments below. Now, once I have my list of hopes and fears, here's where the second habit comes in. I evaluate whether I'm living closest to my greatest hope or my worst fears. Think of it as a range or continuum from 1, living totally in my fear zone, to 10, my greatest hopes have come true. Now let's get back to my example. Yesterday for dinner, I ate 3 ounces of steak, a bowl of steamed broccoli sprinkled with lemon and fake butter. Dessert was a 1/4 cup of non-fat plain yogurt over a frozen banana and sprinkled with cinnamon. What I didn't have is more important. I didn't have a large baked potato with butter and real sour cream. There was no chocolate cake for dessert. Yesterday, I was here. I'd give that about a 7. But when I got on the scale this morning, even after water aerobics, I gained 4/10 of a pound. I was so frustrated. It made me want pancakes with loads of butter and maple syrup and a pound of extra crispy bacon on the side. Yesterday, I was here. Today, if I eat those pancakes, I would be here. Around 3. Because after the taste of that meal fades away, I would feel defeated, like a failure. I would have reacted to a temporary setback that puts me further away from what I hope for, good health. By the way, did you notice the additional fear that showed up? I learned that I'm really afraid to fail, that I'll never lose that weight or look good again. So I'm going to add failure to my list of fears. You see, what I want is a miracle. Steady weight loss, always looking great, always doing the right thing. I want perfection. What do you think it looks like to create a good life? What assumptions are you holding about failures, setbacks, disappointments? How is your belief about doing it perfectly, about everyone else around you doing it perfectly, getting in the way of enjoying a good life? Here's the thing. What's important about the second habit of keeping track of where you are now, so you know what's influencing us at the moment, is if we allow that one number on one day to defeat us, convince us it's not possible, we lose hope. And we can't do that if we want a good life. Now that leads me to the third important habit. I ask myself another tough question. What choice will move me closer to my greatest hope and away from my worst fear? Will eating pancakes and bacon take me closer to losing 20 pounds and looking young? Or will eating Fiber One cereal with blueberries and almond milk move me further away from looking like a pudgy old woman? Remember what I said earlier. People who really want a good life are not afraid of the tough questions, and their answers make all the difference. To recap, I promised to share 3 habits that will help you move along the path to create the future you want. The first habit is to clarify your greatest hopes and your worst fears for each important area of your life. The second habit is to rate yourself, sometimes on a moment-by-moment basis, of whether you are living closer to your greatest hope or worst fear. The third habit is to ask yourself, what choice will take me closer to my greatest hope and away from my deepest fear? I choose to live by hope and not by fear. That choice has made all the difference in my journey to a good life. Well, that's all for today's episode of My Mentor Jane. I would love to hear from you about your greatest hopes, worst fears, as well as your victories and challenges. If this content has been helpful, subscribe to learn more habits that lead to a good life. And stay tuned for the final word. Can I really build a life based on hope? I used to think I had to know it all and do it all, that it was up to me to make my life good. I was responsible for fixing all the problems that came along. I thought that's the way you do it, right? It didn't work because I don't know it all. I can't do it all. So if I don't rely on myself to build a good life, can I just hope it will happen? Hope is the belief that something good is to come. It's the mindset that what we currently have and experience are not the end of the story, and that something greater is ahead. But here's the challenge with building a life on hope. If we rely on our own ability to make our dreams come true, then when disappointment and defeat come, and they surely will, like gaining 4/10 of a pound, we lose hope. We've worked hard on our careers, and then someone else gets the promotion. We've been dreaming about finally buying our first house, and then the car breaks down. There goes the down payment. After years in a relationship, we discover he's been cheating. In the back of our minds, we hear someone saying, "See, I told you not to get your hopes up." But we can choose a different hope, to hope not in ourselves, but in someone far greater, stronger, and smarter. God has great plans for our lives, greater than we could imagine. And because they are His plans, His hopes and dreams for us, we can be confident we can live a good life. How do we know this? A long time ago, a man named Paul had great plans for his life and thought he had everything under control. Then he had a face-to-face encounter with the Son of God and began to align his plans with God's plan and allowed God to lead him. Later, Paul wrote, "Hope in God's promises never disappoints us because His love has been abundantly poured out within our hearts." One choice, to place his hope in the Son of God, and the entire direction of Paul's life changed. Did he continue to experience setbacks? He sure did. But Paul is known today as one of the greatest religious leaders of all time. So, can you really build a good life based on hope? Yes, as long as you put your faith in God and trust in His plans for your life. What does that look like? Drawing close to God is really important. He wants a personal and meaningful relationship with you. If you're going to put your hope in someone other than yourself, don't you want to know Him a little better? Talking to God each day, which is what we call prayer, reading about His life in the Bible, and just being quiet to listen to what He might say to you are key ways to know Him more. I hope for a good life. You hope for a good life. Let's put our hope in the right place. Remember, hope in God's promises never disappoints us because His love has been abundantly poured out within our hearts. That's the final word.